I'm James, 31 years old. I recently went through a divorce and the whole process was incredibly messy and complicated. Now, just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, I received an email from an ex who had previously tried to sabotage my wedding. This has added a new layer to an already chaotic situation. I'm here to share my story and get some advice or suggestions on how to handle this. Thanks for listening in advance. Moving back to 4 years ago, I was dating a girl. Let's say her name was Candace. Things were generally good between us, but there were a few issues. Candace was very overbearing about everything, and her attachment to her male best friend, let's say Kyle, was a constant source of tension. Despite my discomfort with their closeness, Candace assured me there was nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, my concerns turned out to be valid. Candace ended up cheating on me, and this happened after we were engaged. After I proposed to Candace, things started to go wrong about a month later. We grew distant and our relationship was full of problems. I began to question if proposing was a mistake. Candace suggested we take a short break to sort things out, but instead of talking things over, she ended up ghosting me. She stopped answering my calls and messages, which hurt a lot. The pain of being ghosted was tough, but it got worse when I found out she had cheated on me. Learning about the cheating was a huge shock, but it also helped me understand why things went wrong. It took some time to get over the hurt, but I eventually moved on. I put my energy into my career and started my own business. Things began to improve and I felt like I was getting back on track and finding success again. That's when I met Nina. She was a software developer and we crossed paths through a few clients I was working with. From the very beginning, there was a spark between us. We quickly found that we had a lot in common and our conversations flowed effortlessly. It felt like we had known each other for a long time, even though we had just met. Nina was not only smart and skilled in her field, but she also had a warm and fun personality. We started spending more time together and every moment felt exciting and genuine. It was refreshing to connect with someone who seemed to understand me so well. Our relationship developed quickly, and what started as a professional connection soon turned into something much deeper and more meaningful. We eventually started dating, and it was fantastic. We went on dinner dates and watched movies together, and it felt really natural. I was pretty consumed by work before I met her, but Nina helped me find a much better work-life balance. Hanging out with her made me realize how important it is to take a step back and enjoy life. Everything just felt right, and our time together was a perfect mix of fun and relaxation. After a year and a half of dating, I proposed to Nina, and she said yes. Everything seemed perfect except for one thing: her family. My family was pretty laid back about the whole situation. My mom is a teacher, my dad is in business like me, and they were really happy about Nina. On the flip side, Nina's family was a different story. They had some issues with our relationship from the start, and it became clear that they weren't exactly thrilled about me. Their disapproval was a constant tension, which cast a shadow over what was otherwise a really exciting time for us. Nina's family was very traditional and had strong opinions about how she should live her life. They didn't like that she was working and preferred that she marry a nice Christian guy and stay at home. They were into arranged marriages and wanted her to marry someone they had picked out and approved of. Nina had a hard time with her family for years because they didn't support her choices. When it came to me, their disapproval was clear from the start. They seemed to dislike me even before they met me, and it felt like no matter what we did, their old-fashioned beliefs and expectations were always going to be a problem. Nina understood her family's traditional views well, but she struggled to make a clear break from them or fully stand up for herself. She was very emotionally attached to her family, and that attachment made it hard for her to distance herself from their influence. Despite her dedication to her career and our relationship, she wanted to maintain a connection with her family. Nina tried to walk a fine line. She wanted to pursue her own path and be with me, but she also didn't want to entirely cut ties with her family. This meant that she often tried to pacify them, even if it meant compromising on things that were important to us. Her family wasn't the type to force her into decisions, but they were very open about their disapproval. They made their feelings known loudly and clearly, which put Nina in a difficult position. She felt she had to continuously choose between doing what she wanted and managing their vocal criticism. This constant balancing act created a lot of stress and tension in our relationship, as Nina tried to keep everyone, including herself, satisfied. When I first met Nina's family, they were somewhat okay with me. They liked that I was successful and well off, and my mom went to church on Sundays, which seemed to earn me some points. However, things quickly soured when they started voicing their opinions about our future. They constantly pressured me, telling me that I shouldn't let Nina work after we got married and asking about our plans for having kids. For Nina, it was something she was used to, given her family's traditional views. She tried to brush off their comments and told me to do the same. But I wasn't able to just ignore it. I spoke up, saying that Nina was talented and I wanted her to continue working if she chose to. I also mentioned that we didn't have any plans for kids at the moment and we'd figure that out later. It felt frustrating to deal with their expectations, especially since we weren't even married yet and were still figuring things out. When I said that Nina should be able to keep working and that we didn't have immediate plans for kids, her family reacted strongly. They were clearly unhappy with my views. They thought I was disrespecting their traditional values and started questioning my commitment to the relationship. They were very vocal, saying that I was making a mistake and needed to reconsider my approach if I truly cared about Nina and our future. Even though Nina tried to downplay their disapproval, the stress was beginning to affect us both. As we had more family dinners, the issues with Nina's family only intensified. They continued to give backhanded compliments that were clearly meant to be critical. For instance, they'd remark, "You know, not everyone gets the chance to marry someone who shares the same values. We hope you'll understand and respect our views," subtly reminding me of their disapproval. Another comment was, "It's great that you're doing well, but you'll need to show more commitment to family traditions if this is going to work out," hinting that I needed to conform to their traditional expectations. They also said things like, "It must be tough for your mom to juggle a job and take care of the house. No wonder she's always so stressed." Meaning what? As if my family's more balanced approach to life was somehow inferior? My mother, who went to church but was very open-minded, began to lose favor with them as well. They often criticized her for not fitting their traditional Christian mold, making comments about how they believed the wife should stay home and take care of the family. They were openly critical of modern ideas about work and gender roles, clearly showing their rigid, outdated views. Their harsh comments and narrow beliefs only added to the growing tension and made every family gathering an annoying experience. The worst part about her family was how hypocritical they were. On one hand, they constantly criticized Nina for working, saying things like, "A woman should be home, not in an office," or "What's the point of having a husband if you're the one bringing in money?" They acted like it was some kind of failure on my part that she had a job. But on the other hand, they had no problem asking her for money all the time. They treated her like their personal bank account. For example, her mom would ask her to help pay for repairs on the house, or her dad would casually mention he needed money for some emergency expense. They didn't stop there. One time her brother was in some financial trouble because of his poor business decisions, and guess who they turned to for help? Nina. They made her feel like it was her moral duty to support the family just because she was earning a decent salary. They acted like since she was working, she owed it to them to keep them afloat, all while belittling her career the whole way. Now, I don't have any problem with helping family in tough times, but the way they were using her was just wrong. They expected her to pay for everything, but still had the nerve to say she shouldn't be working in the first place. I couldn't stand by and watch them take advantage of her like that anymore. So I decided to talk to her about it. We had a long conversation. I explained how they were exploiting her while still looking down on her career. I told her it wasn't fair that she was constantly giving and getting nothing but criticism in return. After a lot of back and forth, I finally convinced her that she needed to set some boundaries and take more control over her money. She reluctantly agreed to cut back on how much she was giving them, but as soon as she started doing that, her family wasn't happy. Her mom called her, acting all hurt, saying, "We're family. How could you suddenly stop helping us?" Her dad even hinted that she was choosing money over family. They tried to guilt trip her every chance they got, making it sound like she was abandoning them. It was tough, but she did start to stand her ground a little more. But yeah, her family definitely didn't like it when she started pushing back. These issues with her family led to even more drama. They started disliking me more and more, blaming me for Nina standing up for herself and setting boundaries. They thought I was trying to pull her away from them or something. But despite all this, the wedding day came and we were happy, ready to start our life together. Then something bizarre happened. Out of nowhere, my ex, Candace, showed up at the wedding. I hadn't heard from her in years, and suddenly there she was, causing a scene. She started accusing me of leading her on, saying things like, "How could you marry someone else after making me wait for 2 years?" She was acting like I had ghosted her and left her heartbroken, when in reality she was the one who cheated on me and disappeared. It was such a twisted, out-of-nowhere accusation. She was trying to play the victim, completely flipping the script. People were staring and she kept going on and on like I had abandoned her after some long, serious relationship. None of it made any sense. I was in shock. I didn't know whether to laugh or get angry. It felt like she was just there to sabotage the wedding for no reason, trying to paint me as some sort of bad guy. It was a complete mess and everyone was confused. And of all days, she pulled this on my wedding day. It was like a dream turning into a nightmare in an instant. Nina's family, who already had it out for me, jumped at the opportunity. They immediately sided with Candace, trying to make her out to be the victim. They didn't miss a beat, telling Nina things like, "See, we told you he's no good," and "You can't marry him now, not after this, he's a fraud." They were acting like this was the final proof that I wasn't the right guy for her. They even told Nina to leave right then and there, like it was all over. I was completely blindsided and didn't know what to say for a moment, but then I realized I had to defend myself. I couldn't just let Candace walk all over me like that in front of everyone. So I fought back. I stood my ground and called her out on her lies right there in front of everyone. I told her loud and clear that I had proof of her cheating, that she was the one who ghosted me, not the other way around. There was no point in her lying or trying to ruin my wedding. I wasn't going to let her sabotage what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. It turned into a huge scene. People were watching and it felt like it went on forever. But I kept my cool and made sure the truth was out there. I wasn't going to let her walk away without people knowing the real story. It was an absolute mess, and the tension in the room was unbearable. Thankfully, my friends and family had my back the entire time. They could see right through Candace's nonsense and knew she was just trying to cause trouble. It became obvious to everyone after a while that she was only there to make a scene. But Nina, she was silent through all of it. Her family, on the other hand, kept trying to stir things up, whispering in her ear, telling her she should walk away from the wedding and not go through with it. At that point, I was so anxious I didn't know what Nina was thinking. I went over to her, trying to figure out what was going on in her mind. I asked if she was okay, if she still wanted to go through with it. She just looked at me for a second and said, "I never doubted you for a second." Hearing that was such a relief. She admitted she was a bit shaken by all the drama, but she trusted me and knew Candace was just trying to mess with us. So, despite all the chaos and her family's attempts to break us up, the wedding actually happened. It wasn't without its drama, but in the end we made it through. It was a beautiful ceremony, even if it came with a lot more baggage than we expected. After the wedding, things were good for a few months, but then the issues with her family started creeping in again. It was like they had a problem with everything I did. My choice of clothes, not good enough for them, kind of music I listened to, they thought it was inappropriate. And the fact that I wasn't ready to have kids yet, that was their biggest gripe. Every time we went to their place, it felt like I was walking into some sort of judgment panel. Nothing I did was ever right. The worst part, Nina wouldn't speak up for me. She'd just brush it off, telling me to ignore them, keep the peace. She didn't want to create more tension, but that meant she wasn't standing up for us. I kept feeling like I was on my own, dealing with her family's constant criticism. This back and forth went on for months, and the more it happened, the more frustrated I got. It just felt like I was losing more and more ground. This whole situation started to take a serious toll on our relationship. I couldn't handle how Nina would let her family criticize me every chance they got and never say a word in my defense. They had an issue with everything, from the clothes I wore to the music I listened to, and she just acted like it was no big deal. I remember one time her mom said, "Are you really wearing that to dinner?" Because I had on a band tee and jeans. I laughed it off, but it stung. And Nina just stayed quiet. It was stuff like that all the time. Then there was the money situation. Nina was constantly handing over a good chunk of her paycheck to her family. They'd ask for help with bills, home repairs, or whatever, and she'd just give it to them without a second thought. I wanted to be supportive, so at first I helped out too, but it became this constant thing. Every few weeks it was something new. Like one time they asked for money to upgrade their kitchen appliances even though their stuff was perfectly fine. Another time it was for a vacation they wanted to take. I mean, really? What made it worse was how Nina reacted when it came to me spending money. If I wanted to buy something just for fun, like a new gadget or even just upgrading my gaming setup, she'd lose it. I remember once I wanted to buy a new TV, nothing crazy, just something a bit bigger. And she got mad, saying we didn't need it, it was a waste of money. But when her brother wanted to buy a ridiculously expensive sound system for his house, she was all for it and even chipped in to help. It felt like I wasn't allowed to spend on myself without getting a lecture, but her family could splurge on whatever and she wouldn't bat an eye. Over time, all her bottled up frustration came out, but instead of taking it up with her family, who were the ones making these demands, she'd take it out on me. And when I'd bring up how unfair it was or tried to talk about setting boundaries with her family, she'd blow me off, saying I needed to just ignore it for her sake. But I couldn't anymore. The constant one-sidedness was exhausting, and I was tired of being the punching bag while her family bled us dry. Over time, things just kept getting worse between Nina and me. It felt like The more her family interfered, the more distant we became. And then came the day that really pushed me over the edge. Her family was over at our place, and like always, the passive-aggressive comments started flying. Her mom started making these sly little remarks about our marriage, like, marriage is all about compromise. Some people just don't understand that. While looking straight at me, it was always these subtle digs like I was the problem in the relationship. Then her dad chimed in with, "It's a shame you're both so busy with work. That's not good for a marriage. You need more time together to build a family." And I could feel my blood boiling. It was like they were constantly questioning everything about us. And Nina just sat there nodding along like it was all fine. But the real deal came when her mom said, in this mocking tone, "Oh, and be careful. You never know if that ex of yours, Candace, was really wrong. Maybe someone's just really good at manipulating people." It was a joke to her, but I was livid. They were literally trying to stir up old drama, acting like I could have been in the wrong or hiding something. I was so done. I just sat there in disbelief, looking at Nina, waiting for her to say something, anything. But she just stayed silent as usual. That was the final straw for me. I couldn't take their constant disrespect anymore. I couldn't handle how Nina refused to stand up for me or for us. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and completely over it. So at that moment I snapped. I couldn't hold it in anymore, and I gave her family a piece of my mind. I said, "You know what? I'm tired of your constant criticism and disrespect. Every time you come here, it's like you're just looking for reasons to put me down. How about you stop making snide comments about our marriage and start showing some respect?" I looked at her mom and added, "And seriously, stop with these comments about Candace. You don't even know the full story. You're just dragging up old issues to make me look bad. It's childish and petty." Then I turned to her dad and said, "You're always going on about how we should be spending more time together. Maybe if your family wasn't constantly asking for money and causing problems, we wouldn't be so stressed out. You need to understand that we have our own lives and don't need constant interference." I also called out how Nina had been letting them exploit her financially and emotionally. I said, "It's not fair that Nina has to keep giving you all her money while you criticize every choice we make. You're not entitled to her paycheck just because you're family. If you really cared, you support us instead of trying to control our lives." It felt good to finally say all that, but it didn't solve anything. Her family was stunned, and Nina just looked more upset than ever. I walked away feeling a mix of relief and frustration. I had finally stood up for myself, but I knew this was just another step in a long, difficult path. Instead of backing me up for trying to stand up, not just for myself, but also for her, Nina got furious. She couldn't believe I'd spoken to her family like that. She said I was being disrespectful and that I'd crossed a line. We ended up having a massive argument. She demanded an apology, but I refused to back down. I told her it felt suffocating to be in a marriage where her family had more influence than her own husband. In the heat of the moment, she blurted out, "If you can't handle my family, then maybe we should end this. They're my first priority." I was completely stunned. We both walked away from the argument, each of us coming to the realization that our marriage was truly over. After all, her family had always been more important to her than our relationship, and there was no coming back from that. A few days later, we tried talking things through, but by then, her family had completely brainwashed her. Suddenly, I was the bad guy who didn't want his wife to support her family. She was convinced I was being unreasonable and unsupportive. I was done. I decided to move forward with the divorce quietly. I had already endured way too much drama that wasn't even mine to begin with. There was no point in trying to fix something when the other person wasn't willing to work on it. Her family's issues had made my life a living hell, and I couldn't take it any longer. So we went ahead with the divorce. After 2 months of legal proceedings, It was finalized and we were officially done. It felt like a relief to finally close that chapter, even though the whole process had been exhausting. Fast forward 6 months to today, and I received an unexpected email from Candace, of all people. She reached out to apologize for everything that happened. She said she'd had a guilt realization and wanted to come clean. Here's the thing, she revealed that Nina's family had actually paid her to create that entire scene at the wedding. What? I couldn't believe it. It turns out all that chaos and drama were planned and plotted by her family, and Candace had just been a pawn in their game. It left me so annoyed and angry all over again. It's one thing to deal with personal issues, but to find out that a whole wedding disaster was engineered as part of a scheme by my ex's family? It's just mind-blowing. I'm still processing it all, trying to figure out what to do next. I'm not sure what to do, Reddit. Should I confront Nina and her family about this, or just let it be? I'm exhausted from all the drama, but it doesn't feel like I'll get closure unless I address it directly. On one hand, I don't want to drag myself back into a mess I've already tried to move on from. On the other hand, it feels like I need to stand up for myself and make them acknowledge the truth. What do you think? And after everything, they have made sure to paint me as the bad guy. AITA here? I am so exhausted. Update 1. I went through all your comments and advice and I've made up my mind. I'm going to confront Nina and her family about the whole situation. I appreciate the encouragement and support from this community. It really helped me decide to take action. I've also told my family about what I discovered. They're just as upset as I am. They feel that Nina's family went way too far and are angry about the manipulation and deceit. My mom and dad are actually pretty relieved that I'm standing up for myself, and they're ready to back me up on this. I'm preparing to reach out to Nina and her family soon. I'm hoping this will finally give me the closure I need and maybe even clear up some of the lingering confusion and anger. I'll keep you all posted on how things turn out. Update 2. So I reached out to Nina like I said I would. As expected, she had a bit of an attitude at first, acting like she didn't want to hear anything from me. But I wasn't there to argue or fight. I just told her straight up that I didn't want anything from her. I just needed her to know the truth. I told her how her family, the same people she constantly chose over me, had been sabotaging our relationship even before the wedding. I explained that they paid my ex to stage that entire scene at our wedding, hoping she'd call it off, and even after the wedding they kept causing problems, trying to wreck everything between us. I made sure to point out that her family is the real reason our marriage failed, not me. I told her she's been blind to it, always choosing them over her own happiness, and that she's a fool for not seeing how toxic they really are. I didn't sugarcoat anything because she deserved to hear it, and honestly, I'm glad I got it all off my chest. So, after I told her everything, she actually went and confronted her family about it. Now she's coming back to me saying that she realizes how manipulated she's been all along, and get this, she thinks we should give our relationship another shot. Like she's acting like now that she sees the truth, we can just pick up where we left off and everything will be fine. I straight up refused. I told her I'm not going through that again. She never doubted them, never took my side, and I was the one who had to deal with the constant drama and suffering. I'm not about to put myself back in that toxic cycle, no matter how much she claims to have changed now. It's too late for that. Update 3. Her family actually reached out to me after everything, telling me to stop bothering them now that I'm out of their lives for good. They had the nerve to say I was the one manipulating Nina, like I'm the source of all the drama. I didn't even waste my time replying. I blocked their numbers, screenshotted the messages and forwarded them to Nina. I told her I was done with her and her family. They've caused me enough stress and chaos, And the only reason I contacted her in the first place was because she had a right to know what her only family had done behind her back. Now I want nothing to do with any of them. Nina said she understood, so I told her I'd be blocking her too. There's no way I'm getting sucked back into that mess again. She agreed. That was it. No more back and forth, no lingering questions. That chapter of my life is officially closed. On a positive note, my parents and friends have been amazing through all of this. They've shown me so much support, which has been a huge relief. Things are finally starting to look up, and I feel like I'm on the right path to finding some peace and happiness. So yeah, thanks for all the advice, Reddit. I'm hopeful things will just keep getting better from here. Signing off for good this time. Time to really move on. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.